Today's lesson is called Science Says What? Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.
And my name is Helen.
Everyone, on day one or part one of our lesson, we started to examine a clickbaity type headline that you might encounter when you're scrolling through your news feed on a normal day. You might come across a headline that says something like, "Science says singing makes you live longer." Okay, during part one of our lesson, we started to examine and to break down this headline. Everyone, this headline is definitely misleading, okay? Science does not say that singing will make you live longer. Based on the pretend study that we kind of concocted and put together on part one, we concluded that maybe in a certain situation that we could connect or correlate singing and lower blood pressure. But that's where things ended. And by the way, that's the type of conclusion that science would draw, that a certain activity done in a certain way might produce a very specific result, okay? But nowhere in the course of our lesson did we come to the conclusion that singing will make you live longer. So science can't say that because science, remember, only deals in facts and the truth.
That's true. And science is also pretty complicated. When you think about science, it's not all black and white simple statements. So when you have a headline that is a simple statement, this is that, then you have to question, well, is this true? To what extent? You have to start thinking about the details. And the only way you can think about the details is to look at the article, read the article, and find out what the details are and how they relate to the content of the headline.
Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break. But when we come back, we'll start reading from part two of an article called Science Says What?
When looking at the study behind a scientific headline, ask yourself some questions. One relates to the sample. Was the study conducted on 50 people or 5,000 people? Our study on singing and longevity included only 46 women. A sample size should be in the thousands and ideally represent the whole population rather than one sex, for results to be generalizable.
各位好，第一部分我们看到单字 scientific 这个字是形容词，指科学的。例如 Leon has to read many scientific magazines for his job. Leon 的工作让他必须阅读许多科学性杂志。另外，这个字的字尾加上 ALL+， 可以成为它的副词 scientifically， 指合乎科学的。我们可以说All of these workers have been scientifically trained. 这些工人都受过科学训练。再来，我们看到一个名词 longevity， 指长寿，像是 Japan is the country that's known for the longevity of its people. 日本是以其国民长寿为名的国家。接下来，我们看到形容词 generalizable， 指具普遍性的、可概括的。例如The results of the study that we read are not that generalizable. 我们读到的研究结果不够具有普遍性。
And welcome back. Let's jump right into part two of our article. And the first sentence says, when looking at the study behind a scientific headline, ask yourself some questions. So when you're looking at a headline, not any kind of headline, but a scientific headline, which means relating to science. I can also say scientific studies, which means studies that relate to science. So when you're looking at scientific headlines, ask yourself some questions. Don't trust in it first. Ask some questions. Now, the first question that you can ask is related to the sample. Was the study conducted on 50 people or 5,000 people? So we know the study that we looked at before was done on 46 people. So that already is a red flag.
There you go. That's a very big red flag. You might think 46 people, that's a lot. Well, in terms of statistics, No, it's not. One of the laws of statistics is that when you're trying to figure out trends amongst groups of people, the larger sample size you have, the better your data is going to be. So, based on that logic, if you have a study, if you've got 5,000 people to work with, that your numbers, okay, your statistics are going to be much better than if you only had 50 people to work with. Anyways, our study, our fake study from part 1, our study on singing and longevity included only 46 women. Is this a big number? Not really. So you should probably be skeptical of this study. 46 people in terms of science, that's just not enough people. You can't really create or produce or generate meaningful data from such a small sample size.
That's right. And there's one other problem with the sample, which is that not only the fact that there aren't enough people participating in this study, but they're all women. So a sample really ideally should represent the whole population rather than one sex, rather than just women or men, in order for the results to be generalizable. So for results to be generalizable means that the results can be applied to many people or to many situations. If you have a study that contains fewer than 50 people and all of them are women, then you can't really say, well, the results are going to apply to men as well, or to a larger population in the thousands.
So there you go. When you are putting together statistics, like Helen said before, make sure not only, one, do you have a large sample size, but that you also have data that can be generalizable, okay? Your sample size should not only be big, but it should probably reflect how much diversity there is on planet Earth or in some particular place. And yes, no matter where you go on planet Earth, you're going to find both men and women. And how about race? Okay, there are many, many different races on planet Earth. Will singing affect Europeans the same way that it affects Asians? Who knows? That should be reflected in your sampling, okay? You should have Asian people, European people, African people. For a study to be ideal and generalizable, you should take in all of these details. And by the way, science is rigorous in this way, okay? If it said our sample size was large, but it only reflected European or people of European descent, science would say, our results can only reflect or only be generalized for European populations. Okay, science would make that very clear because, again, science only deals in facts and the truth. Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Another question concerns time. How long did the study last? Since our study took place over 3 months and was conducted just last year, the overall time frame is too short to justify the headline's sweeping claim that singing extends life. Finally, there's the question of correlation. We all know that high blood pressure increases the risk of death-causing strokes, and singing was linked to lower blood pressure in the study. However, a headline that links singing directly to longevity presents an oversimplified view of causation and ignores any other factors that could be at play.
第二部分我们看到片语 take place 有发生、举行的意思。举例来说 The meeting took place in a nice hotel in New York. 这场会议在纽约一家高级饭店举行。再举一个例子When we arrived in the city, a big celebration was taking place to honor the new mayor. 我们到达这城市时，正在举行一场恭贺新市长的庆祝活动。再来，我们看到一个形容词 overall， 指整体的、全面的。例如 The overall size of the car is not very big, but there is plenty of room inside it. 这辆车整体来说并不大，不过内里空间还算宽敞。接着我们看到一个单字 justify， 这个字是动词，指证明为合理、正当。举例来说 Because the meal I ate was small, I was able to justify having dessert. 这顿饭分量很小，所以我理当可以来份甜点。接下来我们看到名词 stroke， 用来指中风，像是He's had trouble speaking ever since his stroke. 他自从中风之后，说话就有困难。 再来，我们看到一个片语 at play， 指左右结果，影响结果。例如 To solve the problem, there are some points at play that must be discussed. 为了解决这个问题，有几个造成影响的重点必须拿出来讨论。
And welcome back. So before we looked at sample, more specifically, we looked at sample size and also the details related to the sample, age and sex and geography. So now we're going to look at something else that concerns this study, which is the question of time. Now, how long did the study last? Since our study took place over 3 months and was conducted just last year, the overall time frame is too short to justify the headline's sweeping claim that singing extends life. So this is a very long and packed sentence. So let's just look first at the phrase to take place. To take place simply means to occur or to happen. For instance, I could say, a car accident took place in front of my house yesterday. So since our study took place, or it happened over the period of 3 months, and it was conducted only last year, it didn't happen 5 years ago or 10 years ago, this overall time frame is too short to justify the headline's claim.
There you go. The overall time frame is just too short. Now, here we have this word overall, okay? Here, Helen, are we talking about a piece of clothing like a onesie that you can put on and it kind of covers your entire body, or both the top of your body and the bottom of your body at the same time? Because I have heard tell of a garment called overalls. Very often, farmers in the United States wear overalls. Is that what we're talking about here? Because if so, I'm confused.
Right, that's overall. Here we're talking about overall. Overall refers to something that includes everything. So I could say the overall cost of my trip to Japan was pretty cheap. So I may have spent a lot on hotels, but I spent little on food and souvenirs. So overall, I didn't spend a lot of money. The trip was cheap.
So overall, as it's being used here, kind of means total. Okay, the total time frame for this study was too short to justify the headline's sweeping claim. And by the way, in science, there is a saying, okay? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Okay, so you can't say something like, singing will make you live forever, unless you have some extraordinary evidence to back up that claim. You better have fantastic evidence. And based on our study, we have not found fantastic evidence yet, or extraordinary evidence yet. The best that we can say is that, some women who sing 10 minutes a day might have lower blood pressure. We don't know how long that effect will last, if it's temporary or not. That's all we can say. We can't say that singing is going to make you live longer. Yeah, ideally, you have a study. And not only do you have that one study for 3 months, let's say, you do the initial study, and then over time you have many follow-up experiments as well to check in on the people that you tested before. And then you get a better idea of how singing over a very long period of time might affect the health of the participants in your study. That's what science would do. So time is very important. 3 months, one and done, that overall time frame is way too short to justify this headline's sweeping claim.
That's right. So we have looked at sample, the characteristics of the sample. We've also looked at the time frame of the study. The third thing we have to consider, or the third question, relates to correlation. We all know that high blood pressure increases the risk of death-causing strokes, and singing was linked to lower blood pressure in the study. So a stroke is something that happens, actually, it's a pretty common disease. It's a medical condition in which blood is unable to reach your brain, or your blood vessels in your brain gets damaged so that it stops the flow of blood in your body, and that can lead to a person's inability to move or to speak. So it happens a lot mainly to older people. So we know that high blood pressure is a cause, or it can increase the risk of death-causing strokes, and that singing was linked to lowering blood pressure. But is this enough to say that singing can make you live longer?
No. Again, there's another thing that people say in science. Okay, correlation is not causation, okay? A doctor, let's say, if they were talking about, the probability of having a stroke or a heart attack, they would say, well, okay, people with lower blood pressures often experience fewer strokes and heart attacks, but they would never say that high blood pressure leads to heart attacks and strokes, because that's just not true. There are people who genetically happen to have more heart attacks than the general population or have more strokes than the general population. These people might even have low blood pressure. So to say low blood pressure, it's healthier for you. You could say that, okay, but it's not as precise as you would want it to be. Oh, yes, if you have low blood pressure, you'll never have a heart attack or a stroke. Is that true? Not necessarily. Just as if you were to say, if you have high blood pressure, you will have a heart attack or a stroke. That's not necessarily true either. And remember, scientists, they are very rigorous in the way that they say things. Like I said before, correlation is not causation. Just because statistics show a link between certain things, that does not explain that thing either. Okay, keep that in mind. Correlation is not causation. Anyways, however, a headline that links singing directly to longevity presents an oversimplified view of causation, there's that word again, and ignores any other factors that could be at play. And don't forget, people might want this to be true, okay? So there's also that. So this fake headline here, people are saying that singing is great, it's awesome, it's going to save your life. This is a totally oversimplified view, okay? If you're a woman of a certain age, if you sing 10 minutes a day, maybe you'll have lower blood pressure at some point in the future. But this is not the same as saying that singing will make you live forever. This is an oversimplified view of things.
That's right. And just because the women showed lower blood pressure after singing 10 minutes a day, it doesn't mean that their lower blood pressure is a result of the singing, because there could be other factors at play. If something is at play, it is having an effect on something. So in the case of the study, maybe it's not the singing that's making their blood pressure lower. Maybe it's the fact that they're also reducing their salt intake or they're exercising. So it could be a number of things that the study or the article that reported the study did not mention. So going back to the phrase at play, I could also say something like, Tom quit his job not only because he had a fight with his manager. There are other reasons at play there.
There you go. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break. But when we come back, we'll be wrapping up our article on headline problems.
There are many other questions that you can raise before accepting the claims of a scientific headline. Though reading headlines is a lot easier than plowing through scientific reports, it's better to take that extra step where your health is concerned.
.最后第三部分我们看到一个单字 plow， 这个字是动词，指费劲的做事，像是I've got many assignments to plow through before tomorrow. 明天前我必须做完成堆的功课。另外这个字除了上面意思，还可以指犁地、耕地，例如 Before the farmer planted any crops, he needed to plow his fields first. 农夫在种植任何作物前必须先犁田。
Okay, so let's wrap up our article on headlines on Science Says What. And so basically, we've looked at all of the types of questions that we should be asking before we believe in what a headline says. And these are just a few considerations: the sample, the time frame, and also the correlation. So there are many other questions that you can raise before accepting the claims of a scientific headline. Though reading headlines is a lot easier than plowing through scientific reports, it's better to take that extra step where your health is concerned. And here, the verb plow means to do something that is difficult, that's boring, or takes a long time. And it refers to something that we don't like to do. For instance, I could say, I have to plow through several reports for my presentation. In this case, we have to plow through the scientific reports, even though they contain a lot of numbers, a lot of data that we may not understand. But because we want to protect our health and we want to do the right thing, it's a good idea to read through those scientific reports.
Gosh, it sounds like that's a whole lot of hard work. We have to plow through some scientific reports. I would rather just read a headline and be done with it. But hey, we do want to be factual, and we don't want to be made fools of by headlines and clickbait. Anyways, folks, that's it for our article on headline problems. Remember, science is awesome. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a short break. But don't worry, don't fret. The Chinese teacher is on her way.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始提到，当你在查看科学相关的标题背后的研究时，问问自己一些问题。他就说 One relates to the sample， 其中一个和研究样本有关。好，那我们在读到第二部分的一开始，他又说 Another question concerns time， 另一个问题涉及到时间。这他就是说一个问题是关于什么，另一个问题是关于什么。那这两个句子当中的 relate to 以及 concern 意思相同，都是可以用来表达与什么有关，或者是涉及什么什么。那我们顺便来学它们的相关用法。好，首先来看 relate to，它有3种常见用法。第一种是课文的用法 relate to 加名词表示与什么什么有关，那也可以用被动语态表示 A is related to B， 就表示 A 和 B 有关联。例如 Those extreme weather events are believed to be related to climate change， 那些极端气候事件被认为跟气候变迁有关。好，第二个用法是表达理解、认同。当我们说 relate to something 或是 relate to somebody， 就表示能够理解什么，对什么感同身受。这个用法常常是去表达说你能够认同某人或某事物，跟某人或某事物产生共鸣。像是你说 I can relate to her feelings， 意思就是说我可以理解她的感受，我可以感同身受。好，第三个是用 be related to somebody 来表达跟某人有亲戚关系。举例来说 Richard is related to the boss， 就是说 Richard 跟老板有亲戚关系。好，接着我们来看 concern 的用法。concern 当动词除了指关于跟什么什么有关，它还可以用来表达使担心，或者是表达关系到、影响到的意思。像我们在写正式信件的时候，如果你没有办法得知收件人的姓名，像是你在写推荐信啊，这信搞不好给很多人，你也不知道谁会收到嘛，你不知道谁会看到这封信，这时候可以用 to whom it may concern， 字面上的意思是给这封信涉及到的相关人士，那这其实是相当正式的用法，就像我们中文说的近期者、执事先生、执事女士等等的。好，那我们接着读到课文最后一句，他说It's better to take that extra step where your health is concerned. 关系到你的健康时，多做那个步骤会比较好。好，那这边用到的形容词 concerned， 它除了可以用来形容担心的、挂念的，也可以用来表达有关的。那么 where something is concerned 就是用来表达说到什么就什么什么而言，这个用法意思就相当于 as far as something is concerned。 举例来说 where safety is concerned you can never be too careful， 就安全而言再小心也不为过。那么 where safety is concerned 你也可以说 as far as safety is concerned。好，那再补充一下，如果我们是用 as far as somebody is concerned， 这表示就某人而言，对某人而言，它的意思会跟 in somebody's opinion 差不多。举例来说 as far as I'm concerned the pizza here is the best in town， 对我来说这里的披萨是城里最好吃的。好，那么以上是这些重点整理，我们来回顾这些单字吧。
Scientific。In an exciting scientific discovery, researchers have identified previously unknown cells that may be able to heal patients with heart problems. Overall. The overall cost of fixing up the house was nearly as much as buying it in the first place. Justify. Being angry does not justify bad behavior, like throwing things or insulting people. Stroke. Really intense exercise may increase people's chances of suffering a stroke. Plow. James plowed through his entire stack of files in only a few hours.
Discussion Starter starts now.
And now it's time for our discussion starter. Helen, can you think of any headlines you've seen that might be misleading?
Well, I once saw a headline that said drinking wine can make you live longer, which could be misleading because we have to think about how much wine we're allowed to drink, and it just doesn't seem very realistic.
Well, I read an article with the headline that the government was keeping evidence of the assassination of JFK secret, which didn't really match the article's content because they claimed to have this evidence, but they also said that the government wasn't going to release it. So how did they have that evidence if the government was keeping it secret? It didn't seem to make any sense to me. It sounded to me like a conspiracy theory. Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.